later, it will be available to you. So without further ado, I am going to introduce a good friend of mine. He's been a good friend of mine for many years. And when he found out I would indeed throw my name in the hat for district director, he said, I will step up and be your finance manager. So please help me welcome our finance manager for District 26, Tom Mars.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. So I can't see you anymore, and that's okay. So if you want to ask a question, speak up, okay? Okay. So I'm just going to put on the presenter view. Just give me a second. I need to move something. Hang on. Okay. So first of all, welcome to Concur training. And this is all about how we get reimbursed for our expenses. Now, when I was first looking at Concur, I was saying, this is nice. I've been doing Concur for 6 or 7 years on my job. But I thought to myself, well, what are the rules for submitting expenses, regardless of whether we're online, regardless of whether we're still doing it with paper? What are the rules? What do we get? What can we expense? And so I thought I would just start there. So first of all, here's what we're going to be covering. We are going to be covering just basic outlines. We're going to cover the reimbursement procedures. And this is important regardless of whether we use Concur or not, because we need to know the rules. Because if we don't follow the rules, we don't get reimbursed, regardless of systems. Then we can talk about logging into Concur, adding an expense, showing some codes. We're going to then attach receipts, talk a little bit about pre-approval, and then show Google Maps for a mileage expense, okay? So first of all, what are the rules? So for mileage, it's 14 cents a mile for every round trip of 40 miles or more. So if your round trip is 20 miles, that doesn't count. And if you'll notice here, like the annotations where it says TI and IRS, TI stands for Toastmasters International. So they made that rule. IRS makes the other rule. It's also talking about the rule as well. And when you see D26, that would be us. Sometimes the district has discretion, okay? And for D26, we are allowing up to $199 a night for a hotel stay. Now the hotel stay isn't just so you can take a vacation. This is for a legitimate visit that you have to make. Maybe you're going out to the Western Slope and you've got to drive a couple hundred miles, stay at a hotel, and run a division contest. It would be that sort of thing. Or you have to, and we'll just leave it at that. And then there's reimbursement of parking fees associated with the D26 activities, like your club area visits, your trainings, your contests. And then there has to be a bit of timeliness. All reimbursement requests have to be made within 60 days of incurring that expense. If it's beyond that, you snooze, you lose. That's it. You can't get reimbursed. And if you have and anytime you've got an expense, you do have to have a receipt and some documentation. Like for example, if you have mileage, we want to see a Google map. Anybody have any questions on this so far? Are we good?
Hey, Tom, this is Victoria. Is there any way to make the screen bigger? Because we're recording, because right now it's just filling up like 2/3 of the page.
I don't know. I'll give it a shot. No, I don't know how to do it. Sorry, I really don't.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No worries.
Okay, sorry about that. Actually, I may be able to, no, I can't do this. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. All right, so next page. All right. Now, all reimbursement requests have to be approved by the district director, by Jacqueline. And if it's her request, then it's got to go through Victoria, the program quality director, and myself. Now, it's not just approved by Jacqueline. Typically, your expenses they're going to go through me first as the finance manager, and then it goes to Jacqueline. So the expenses are going to take, between Jacqueline and myself, we will get this we'll process this within 10 to 20 days of submission, probably a lot sooner. And then one thing to note is that this then goes to Toastmasters International. And then someone over there has to approve it. And that will take some additional time. So we do have it. We haven't lost it. Trust us. We do have it. We're not going to lose this. As long as we go through the process, do our jobs, you're going to be fine. Okay. And there is a limit on the amount of the expense that you can just do normally. If you've got something in excess of $500, you've got to be pre-approved by the essentially the district director, program quality director, and then really the rest of the trio, which would be Jeff, who's the club growth director, and myself. We do need to look at that and review it. So $500 is kind of that sort of cusp that we look at. And then, you know, really all the requests for reimbursement should be a pre-approved where practical. That's just what we're asking. Okay, now on to Concur. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to bother you again.
Mhm.
There is a note in the chat room that says if you're working from 2 screens, you can share another screen that will show the full resolution of the PowerPoint. Or Trixie said, take it off a presenter and it might go ahead and fill the entire screen.
Okay,
Yeah, so
I can try it.
No, that's fine.
Well, okay, because I had my notes up here, but I can do that if that helps somebody. Do we want to just get rid of the slideshow completely? Is that what we're saying?
No, I think the slideshow's good.
Okay, this way?
There we go.
Okay, all right,
Perfect.
okay. So
Thank you.
logging into Concur.
Perfect.
Here is your URL, concurrsolutions.com. And this is the page you're going to see. This is the latest and greatest. I just did this today. Now for the login, does everybody here have a user ID? This is really important. So, or has anyone not logged in to Concur at this point?
I have one for work. Is it going to be a different one for here, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, so what it's going to be, and that's a great segue. So essentially it's going to be your member ID, which you can pull off of Toastmasters International at toastmasters.org. And if your member ID is less than 8 digits, just stick a leading 0 on there. You're good. And if anybody does not have access,
Will our login from before work? Because I logged in it a couple years ago.
give it a try. And if it
Okay.
doesn't, let me know. I will help you.
Okay.
How's that?
I would say yes, Tom, because your member number never changes. And I still had one from when I was a division director 2 years ago, and my same account works, Trixie.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I know we're not traveling, but I might have some expenses for PR, so I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
My old one.
Tom, I'm sorry, this is Dick from Wyoming.
Yeah.
I had a Concur login when I was in District 48. Is that going to be the same up here?
Let's see. I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't.
Well, I'm not even sure I remember what it is, but
Yeah, I would say just get a new one. Just use your member number.
It should be our TI login, right?
It should be.
Okay.
Tom, can you repeat the back end of the login ID one more time? So your
Sure.
member number.
Hang on. I got to get us out of this mode now because I had it in my notes. So I got to get out of the mode and just stop sharing for a sec. Okay. Okay. So essentially it is going to be, yeah, it's going to be your member number at toastmasters.org. So Dick, it should, the short answer is yes, that should work just fine. As long as it's not, doesn't say anything about D48 in your user ID, you should be okay. Mine didn't work because mine said something about D26 auditor. And that just, I was an auditor for many years here in the district, but that's a different story. That was not my normal member ID and login. All right, so moving along, I will go ahead and just move back into the, just going through the slide deck again. Are we good on the ID? Like I said, if you can't log in or have a problem, just come talk to me. We'll get you set up. But before you can submit an expense, we want you to enter your bank information. What we're talking about here is, so you'll be hitting your profile, and once you click on the profile on the upper right-hand side of the screen, you're going to go into the bank information page. And the general gist of this is it's about electronic payments. So we'll be paying your bank account directly. It's direct deposit. So if you do not want direct deposit, I can work with you. There is a way to do that, but we prefer strongly that you do a direct deposit. And these are the required fields: your routing number, your bank account number, everything about your bank, your personal address and city, state. Now this is safe because essentially this is going over HTTPS, and I don't think anybody really sees any of this. This is very safe and secure. And the next page of this, go down one, is just your bank information. They're just giving you examples. And I don't know if they expect you to send them a voided check, and actually to put in a voided check PDF. Don't do it unless they ask. But here you're going to just hit the save and authorize. And that's how we set you up. And it'll take a couple of days for that to become confirmed. But once it is confirmed, you are good to go. And you can start receiving payments from D26 for your expenses. Any questions? I will take that as a no. Okay. So adding an expense. Now this could look a little different between your screen and mine because I'm the finance manager. But in general, you will hit the new button on new expense, and then you're going to elect to start a report, and then you'll be putting in your report name, the report date, the date that you're creating your expense report. Next slide is going to be actually just creating a real expense. In this case, this could be something where maybe one of the trio did some advertising. They put a Toastmasters D26 advertisement on a public bench, maybe on a bus bench someplace in Colorado Springs or in Denver, what have you. And let's take a look at some of the key fields here. You have your expense type, and that's the high level type. You've got to select that first. And anytime you see red next to a field, that is required. So you have to do that, or you're never going to be able to enter everything. And in our case, this is, so you start with advertising, you put the business purpose, a little bit more detailed. You just don't say advertising expense, we need a little bit more detail. And then the amount, and then the reporting code. The reporting code will be a subset of the expense type. So you start with the expense type, and then you're going to get a drop down of the different type of expense of the reporting codes under that. And normally your payment type, that is how you paid for it, will generally be cash out of pocket, unless you're one of the trio, unless you're using the district credit card. So even if you use your credit card, it's always going to be cash out of pocket. And you put in your transaction date. The date, so that's not the date. So for example, if you did something on October 1, that's the date that if you incurred the expense on October 1, that's when you put the transaction date down. Okay. Now let's go into something a bit more tangible for most of us. It's going to be about the mileage expense, because that's going to be the most common type of expense we're going to have in our duties. We could be traveling. So correct me where I'm wrong, but Jacqueline, like for example, is a district officer training reimbursable for mileage? Like let's just say if we went from Denver up to Longmont or something.
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. So imagine back in the good old days before all this happened. Imagine that it's December of this year and that we're having a physical district officer training up in Longmont in Xilinx. So for many of us, that would be a long trip of at least a round trip of at least 40 miles round trip. And
and Tom, just a caveat. I know that the last couple times, if they encourage you, you will get reimbursed mileage if you travel with someone that
Okay.
also needs to go. So
Sure.
you have to have at least one other person in your car.
Okay, fair. That's
Okay.
fair. Cool. Okay. I'm just using that as an example, but
Yeah,
thank you for
yeah,
that
yeah,
clarification.
Pardon me, Tom, this is Dick again. Is, and I hate to keep going back and forth to District 48, but I think that the protocols were a little different. In District 48, if I traveled by myself from point A to point B, and it qualified for reimbursement, I would get X, whatever the reimbursable amount was. If I took another person with me, then it would be like 10 cents or 15 cents a mile more. Is that the same here, or is it just a flat 14 cents?
It's a flat 14 cents. So going back,
whether you've got one person in the car or 5.
Doesn't matter. Again, going back to the original expense page, this was at the district's discretion. So we set it up as is. Each district functions just a little bit differently. Okay, they're not all the same.
So Tom, actually, that 14 cents came from Toastmasters. So
Okay,
that is not a District 26 stipulation. That is from World Headquarters that they sent down to everyone last year. So we are capped at that 14 cents per mile. We at districts can come up with, for our district, we've decided reimbursement 14 cents a mile for 50 miles or more round trip. But so we can come up with that part of it, but the 14 cents, we're obligated to that.
I think we said 40.
Did we say 40?
We said
Yeah.
40, yeah.
We said
So
40.
anyway, nonetheless, yeah, Dick, so yeah, so what is on that page originally, that's what we're going by. So essentially we start with either IRS rules and TI, and then we do make a couple of, we have some leeway to make some modifications to that. Although Jacqueline's correct, it is 14 cents a mile. But this is just, so, but in the sense where like the $199 per night for hotel, that was up to District 26 discretion, for example. Is that clear? I will take that as a yes. I'll move on. So let's imagine we want to add a mileage expense. Let's say I'm doing an area visit. I'm doing a club visit. I am the area director, and I've got to go make my round trip of over 40 miles. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to do the same thing I went through before. I'm going to click on new expense, and you'll notice here that my expense type is mileage. I went today. My purpose was a club visit. I don't need a vendor name. I do need to say, I put in something for the city of purchase. I just say Aurora because that's where I live. It's cash out of pocket because this is out of my pocket. And I can't save anything. The reason it's blue right now is just because I had entered all the fields previously. But again, it's going to be the expense type is going to drive everything from here. Then I'm going to put in the amount of $9.10. We'll get there in a minute. And then I'm just giving the amount. In this case, I'm going from Aurora to Colorado Springs. And really, it'd be 130 miles if I'm talking about the round trip. But I said 65. My reporting code, since I was this is travel and I'm an area director. The event period is usually NA. I'm not sure why they have this field, but you have to fill it out anyway. But the number of miles in this case was 65 miles at 14 cents a mile. 14 cents per mile is equal to $9.10. And then at the end, I just put in the district, subsidiary is an area, and I put in a little comment, and I click on the save. So I'm halfway home at this point, okay? So we have that, we're good to go, almost. We still need to attach a receipt. So you have the ability to attach a receipt at this point in time. Now, we'll just go to attaching a receipt. It's pretty simple. You can also go here on the rest of the expense page, and you can go right here where it says attach receipt images. So to do this for mileage, you just get a PDF of your Google map. showing your round trip and showing the mileage and everything in a map. Grab that, and then you save it as a PDF. That's all you really have to have for a receipt. Pretty straightforward. And then at this point, so this is, saving it off to PDF. Good to go. And then you're just going to upload it. You're going to browse your computer. You're going to find your file. And then you're going to just upload it. And that's it. And then after that, hit the submit button and you're good to go. And we will get the receipt. We will review it and then go through the reimbursement process.
I have another question.
Sure.
So last year, the finance manager had us label the reports a certain way. Is there any kind of continuity you want on the title of the expense reports? So there was like he had OOP, something, mileage, something.
Oh, okay, I get it. No, I don't really have I don't have that system other than just let me know what it was, and don't just put anything for the title. Just say what it was. It doesn't have to say OOP. Just say, Victoria Cox mileage expense.
Do you want the D26 at the beginning though, since it does go to world headquarters?
That might be helpful, sure.
So D26 first, and then whatever like mileage or whatever it is we're trying to get a brief reimbursement for, along with the month and the year.
Sure,
Okay.
that can work. So, okay, so I'm going to just field the questions that I'm seeing right now. Okay.
I haven't
So-
seen any.
Okay, no, there were a couple. Okay, member ID, Cynthia, so essentially your
we
member
answered that
ID
one.
is what you pull from Toastmasters International.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Tom
Do
or
we-
Victoria, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is there a default password for Concur for everyone if you've never logged in?
No,
Okay, just
See,
checking.
that you get to create yourself.
you get to create that one yourself.
Thanks.
So my ID log on, you guys, is 01645999 at toastmasters.org. And, like I said, 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, well, even before that, 4 years ago, I was submitting mileage for reimbursement when I was a division director. And the only thing you might need to change is your bank routing. So that's, if you need to change anything, that would be probably make sure you have the right bank.
Tom, this is Dick. I may have missed what you said, but is there a different procedure for uploading Google Maps as the justification for mileage than uploading a receipt? You're muted.
You're muted, Tom.
No, it's not a different procedure. I was just demoing that. So essentially I was just showing a screenshot of of doing a PDF. So for example, let's say you had a different type of expense. Let's say, I don't know, your hotel bill. You would just get that, however you got that electronically, you'd stuff it up in the system. It's the same thing.
Now,
Okay,
do you
thanks.
put your request for pre-authorization in the system, or do you do that separately outside of the system?
You would email me and Jacqueline to start with.
So in other words, let's say you're going from Aurora to Wyoming. You're helping with a contest or whatever it is. You would say, okay, I'm letting you know in advance. Is it okay? And then outside of the system, you say yes, and then you put it in Concur when you have the receipts. Is that the workflow?
Yes.
Okay,
Jacqueline, you want to say something?
Actually, if you're submitting a request like that, so you're going from Aurora up to Wyoming, if you're asking for pre-approval for that, if you could download the map from Google Maps already and just attach that to your email, and a breakdown of, okay, at however many miles times 14 cents, per mile, just be as explicit as you can in the email, and that makes it a lot easier. So for your initial request, if it is a mileage reimbursement, then make sure you're attaching that map to the email, because one thing that we constantly did last year, send us the map, send us the map. So make sure that map is attached to your request.
Okay, so Karen had a question. She said, I thought I saw in the slide of notes that there was an initial password to get us on in Concur the first time. Oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember.
I think it's just sign in and create an account like they normally do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why you need your account number.
Yep.
You need your member ID number.
Member ID, excuse me. Member ID number.
That is your you need your member ID number, and then you create a password to get in there.
Yeah,
and if you're using the same system, like your computer, it'll generally remember your information.
Yeah, the browser will have it, and if not, then you just, you're just registering as a new user. That should work. And if not, then just come talk to me, and we'll figure it out together. Okay, I don't see any other questions up here. Does anyone else have further questions about this? Or have further comments about this?
Well, further comments, I will tell you from the past, like what Jacqueline said, when I have given everything, I've given the Google Maps, I have how much the hotel is going to cost, I have everything broke down, what I'm going to end up submitting at the end. I had a lot easier getting approvals when I gave them everything ahead of time. So that's just my suggestion from the past, that think about what you're going to be submitting after your trip. And for me, when I got everything all ready to go and said, this is what I'm going to be submitting afterwards, is it okay? Am I approved for this? Then usually they were like, oh yeah, right there, we can see how much it's going to cost, because there is certain cost for this and that. So it was just really helpful. I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Thank you.
This is Dick. Is there a daily meal allowance?
I think there is. We didn't have it here on the.
It's usually by district, I think.
A daily meal allowance for what?
Well, like if we're going to be going, if we're going to be out for like 3 days, we've got the hotel bills, but is there, I know in District 48, it was like $30 a day for meals, which was not all that great. I mean, that meant you ate at McDonald's, but that was, as I understand it, that was a district decision.
No, so that's actually another world headquarters decision. And again, on the new template, on the new budget template this year, there's a breakout session for food and meals. And so we're trying to get clarification on exactly what that means, because in the past, that meal per diem, if you will, was really just for the trio when the trio would travel for training. And so since they have this new tab on our budget, we need to seek clarification, but that is not a district decision. That comes from world headquarters as well. So when we get that information, we can provide you more information about that.
Yeah, I mean, right, and I appreciate that. That'll be more important for those of us who have more
Longer
geography to
distance.
travel.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because, for example, Val Burgess and N1 would, if she does it right, will make a loop, Gillette, Cody, Worland, and back, and that's going to take at least, probably 2 different 2-day trips with 2 overnights. And it wouldn't be reasonable not to reimburse for meals. So that would be helpful if you could get that clarification for us.
Yeah, that's what we're working on now, because in the past, like I said, it's been solely for the trio, but now we see all of these different categories. And so we actually have a question in to World Headquarters, the finance department specifically regarding that. And when we get that answer, we can pass that on to you.
So Tom, Grace Combs is willing to share her screen. She wants to create her ID right now to kind of give an idea of what it looks like. So
Go for
she's
it.
willing to do that.
Sure.
So I think we have to give her permission, right, or something? Oh,
You
there we
need,
go.
yeah, you need to give her
There we go.
permission. There
No,
you go.
she got it.
Yay. Okay, cool. Go for it, Grace.
Yeah, so what I was trying to figure out is when I go to that actual URL that you gave us, Tom, it
Yeah.
tells me to sign in. And so I put in my,
Well, see at the bottom though, Grace, it says not a Concur user yet, and then you click.
try test drive.
Yeah.
So what happens is you actually have to get set up in Concur, and part of that means you have to provide Concur, which basically Toastmasters International, your banking information so that when you receive the reimbursement, it goes directly to your bank. So it's not as easy as just sitting here and creating it on the screen here. So you'll have to get started there. And then have to set up your bank account and the like. So I would highly suggest that you not do that now.
So
Yeah.
where do you go?
Yeah, she's trying to just
That's what
establish the
we're trying to
account.
figure out, where do we
Trying
go?
to establish the account, but what I'm saying is in order to establish your account, you have to provide your banking information. And
And you're
this
saying
is
everybody
not-
would see it.
this is not the forum to do that.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, the test drive and the login aren't going to work. The login can't work because there's nothing to log in with.
Yeah,
Try to hit the
looking for
login and
like
see
a
what you get.
registration
Yeah.
section or something.
Sure. Okay, that's a great question.
If we hit the login,
I thought somebody signed me up a couple of years ago. I thought that Justin gave me a sign in.
Okay,
It could be that he did that because I know he did that his year. So let's investigate that more.
Sure.
How you get folks signed in, but I know part of the process is you providing your banking
Right.
information. So that's not something we need to do here.
Right.
I can give you
Yeah.
more instructions on that. And
I'll
I
reach
know,
out to district. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. And last year, JP had to walk a couple of people through it in terms of getting on Concur. So this is not unusual.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll ask district finance and just and I'll get an answer back from them pretty quickly on that.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, no problem. We'll get you. We got you.
Looks like you can do forgot password and you'll get in. You'll
Yeah,
send you an
I
email with a new
remember-
password.
Oh yeah, our systems person. Go. So Sharika, show us that.
Yes,
That's
we both have worked before together, right? So we know each other.
So I remember, you're right, Jacqueline. I remember when I first did Concur years ago, when you set the expense and stuff, they sent you some information. And when I got my user ID, I was kind of like, what? What's that number? They never explained it was my membership number. And I was like,
Yep.
how am I supposed to remember that number? Or where did it come from? So I do believe World Headquarters, you have to like submit. What we did that one year is everybody that thought they were going to use Concur would submit a certain amount like email or something like that, and they would submit it to World Headquarters. But I'm sure Tom will look into it
Yep.
and then create a list at one time and submit it all at one time. I'm pretty sure that's what they did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll find that out.
Okay.
Or not, Justin collected all that and sent it all at once.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
All right.
So there's a question from Rachel. Tom, you want to address that?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I need to look that up. I don't know the answer right now. I've got
Is
to
there
look it up.
any reimbursement for area council meeting expenses? So Rachel, the question I'm going to ask you, does this involve travel or does it involve, say that, all right, if you are an area director here in downtown Denver, you will likely incur parking expenses. And so those are reimbursable. So is that what you're asking? Or if you have to travel more than 50 miles round trip for your area council meeting, which I hope you don't because you're the area director, then otherwise, yeah, those would be the reimbursable expenses for that, for the area council meeting if you're traveling or if you're encouraged.
I was just thinking about it in person. Like last year, Heidi, when she had area council, she had it at a pizza place.
Mhm.
I think she just bought the pizza herself, but I didn't know if that was something other people got reimbursed for and she just didn't know.
No, now that wouldn't, well, again, so we're trying to define what this food and meal means. But again, if you're having
Exactly.
an area council meeting, you are the district leader, not the club leadership. So it can get kind of tricky there, where potentially if it would be reimbursable to you, it wouldn't necessarily be reimbursable to the club members, because we are only reimbursing expenses
Oh,
incurred as a district leader.
gotcha. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
sometimes, Rachel, when you have those area council meetings, if you do have them in person, you can try to do like a potluck kind of situation where people can go ahead and just bring some food to share, or everybody just brings their own meal and kind of sits around if you want to make it more of a meal kind of situation. I know that when I was division director, I would always bring food for my guys simply because it was the way to get them there.
Right.
But I know that Jacqueline and I and Jeff are working on incentives so that we can do some stuff, but we're still working through some of the, and it's mostly for when you get in person, and we're not at that stage yet. So we're still kind of working on stuff.
Right. Are there any other questions related to the reimbursement process?
Just a very quick one. There was some talk early on, not tonight, about division budgets. And is that kind of thing, kind of flexibility going to be there for, or do you not know that's part of the meal reimbursement thing?
So,
Like if we wanted to, if the area director, for example, if I wanted to have a division council meeting in Casper, for example, then that's going to require me to drive 2.5 hours and stay for a while. It's going to require Val to do the same thing.
right.
And it would make sense to do that over lunch, for example. And it would be easier if I, as a division director, could pick up the tab and do that rather than have 4 or 5 separate expense accounts submitted through you guys.
Understood. And again, so Dick, I'm going to just reiterate again that we're seeking clarification on that meal issue, because it is new this year and we want to ensure that we're doing things correctly. And so before I give you a definitive answer, just allow us a couple of days or so to get the clarification on that part.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
I think what would be a good idea is if you feel areas that you possibly think would be great, incentive or promotion to help support the divisions and so forth, to just email us and let us know so that we can take a look at them and see if it's something that we're going to be able to do. So if you do come up with an idea that is reasonable, obviously, and so forth, we can see if it's something that we're going to be able to do. You know what I mean, Dick? So just email us with that stuff, and then Jacqueline and Tom talk about it, and then it comes to Jeff and I, and we all sit down and, during our budget meetings and talk about things like that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I think his question is just, again, geared more towards specifically that meal reimbursement.
Right.
We get clarification on that. Tom, you have anything else?
No, I don't really have anything. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to send an email off to district finance and just ask them, what about setting up Concur access for people? What's the standard way to do it? Because it's pretty clear from looking at this. I mean, I had to actually call district finance and get access for myself. So I don't think there's a straightforward way. So I'll investigate this. I'll get an answer back as quickly as possible. And then Jacqueline will let you know, and we can start disseminating that so people can send me their IDs, and we can just do it in one shot for a couple of shots.
Right. And again, I just want to state, last year when JP Bachman was our finance manager, it wasn't uncommon for him to ask someone if they already had an existing Concur account. And if they didn't, he would walk them through the process. So no worries there. We'll those of you who need it, we will definitely get you set up. I think the easiest way he did it, we'll have to do some investigating on offline, Tom. So
Sure.
but again, it's not difficult to get district leaders set up for that.
Right.
Anyone else? Anything else? No?
Tom, thanks for picking up the gauntlet on this. My experience is that yours is one of the more difficult and most unthanked positions in the district, besides Jacqueline's, by the way. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dick.
Yeah. So thank you, Tom. Thank you for putting your presentation together. We are recording it. So again, we'll make this available to everyone, and we'll definitely address those lingering questions that we have regarding Concur setup, and definitely that food and meal expense, because it's driving me a little nutty seeing that there on the budget now, and it wasn't previously there. So we just really need more clarification on what it goes, and we can get back to you on that stuff. So again, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Victoria. Victoria was letting folks in and jumping in and answering questions. So thank you. And thank you all for attending this evening. Just, you know, I know we're all busy. I have checked in with the division directors. I sent each of you just a check-in notice just to see how you're doing and see where we can be of assistance to you. So we definitely want to let you know that we're here to serve you and serve our members most of all. So that's what we are all here for. And let's keep that the main thing this year.
I'm going to stop the recording, Jacqueline, okay?
Yeah, okay. Anything else?